You know the saying, man? It's another day, and it's another Shedeur Sanders video. And I'm here to tell you, Tony Grossi is back in the hot seat, man. So he appeared on ESPN Cleveland this morning. And he had some things to say about Shedeur Sanders. I personally don't agree with him. And we got some more footage of Shedeur Sanders hanging out with some kids, I believe, at the Cleveland Browns practice facility. And they asking him some serious questions, bro. Pretty much putting Shedeur Sanders in the hot seat. We ain't finna waste no time. Let's react to some of this stuff and get right down to business, man. So let's check it out here, man.
Tony, there is this feeling from some people that he has blown everybody out of the water. But are you resisting that? Or are you acknowledging
he's getting better every day? He's very coachable, very likable.
He doesn't look like a 5th round pick out there. Is that fair?
Can we wait till the pass rush and shoulder pads get on? I mean, it is touch football, Aaron. I mean, right now. And what's the one negative about Shedeur was what? Drifting into sacks, not being able to get away without the physical, the running ability to get, you know.
At what point are you going to start to give him more credit? Preseason games is what
he's doing better, but I think this is overhyping again.
I think everyone was surprised to see him go to the 5th round. He's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. You know, he's a hardworking guy. He has a good head on his shoulders. You know, he's always positive, always optimistic, always keeps a smile on his face. And, you know, you like going to work with people who have that kind of attitude.
The Cleveland Browns locker room is buzzing, and Myles Garrett just dropped a bomb that has critics scrambling for cover. While keyboard warriors and talking heads continue their relentless assault on Shedeur Sanders, the reigning defensive player of the year candidate just put his reputation on the line with words that are sending shockwaves through the NFL. What did Garrett see in those OTAs that has him willing to go to war for a 5th round rookie? And why are the same people who doubted Sanders now desperately trying to move the goalposts as their narratives crumble in real time? You know what's wild about this whole situation? We're witnessing the most predictable character assassination in recent NFL history, and it's all falling apart in spectacular fashion. For months, we've been fed a steady diet of anonymous sources and unnamed executives whispering about Shedeur Sanders being arrogant, entitled, and unable to read a defense. But here's the thing that should make every Browns fan's blood boil. Not a single one of these cowards has put their name behind these claims. Not one. But you know who has put their name and reputation on the record? Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, David Njoku, Johnny Manziel. Every single NFL player who's actually worked with Sanders or seen him up close has nothing but praise. So what's really going on here? Let's start with what Garrett actually said, because his words are about to expose just how desperate the Sanders haters have become. When asked about his impression of Shedeur during minicamp, Garrett didn't hold back. I think everyone was surprised to see him go to the 5th round. He's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. You know, he's a hardworking guy. He has a good head on his shoulders. He's always positive, always optimistic, always keeps a smile on his face. And you know, you like going to work with people who have that kind of attitude. Now, this isn't just any player talking. This is Myles Garrett, a guy who's been battling for Defensive Player of the Year honors, who's gone toe-to-toe with the best quarterbacks in the league, who knows what it takes to succeed at the highest level. When he says everyone was surprised Sanders went in the 5th round, he's basically saying what we've all been thinking. This kid got robbed on draft night. But here's where it gets really interesting. While Garrett's singing Sanders' praises, we've got media personalities like Tony Grossi still trying to pump the brakes. On ESPN Cleveland, Grossi essentially said we're all just overhyping Sanders and that we need to wait till the pads come on and wait till the pass rush starts hitting him.
Can we wait till the pass rush and shoulder pads get on? I mean, it is touch football, Aaron. I mean, right now. And what's the one negative about Shedeur was what? Drifting into sacks, not being able to get away without the physical, the running ability to get, you know.
At what point are you going to start to give him more credit? Preseason games is what
he's doing better, but I think this is overhyping again.
Really, Tony? We need to wait for what exactly? For Sanders to prove he can handle adversity? The kid went from Jackson State to Colorado, turned around a program that was historically terrible, dealt with death threats, media scrutiny, and constant criticism. And you think some pass rushers in practice are going to break him? Here's what Grossi and the rest of the Sanders skeptics don't want to admit. They've been wrong from day one, and now they're desperately trying to save face. Think about the timeline here. When Sanders was drafted in the 5th round, the narrative was, can this kid even make the team? The so-called experts were already writing his obituary, talking about how he might get cut before training camp even started. But now, just 2 months later, the conversation has completely shifted. Now we're talking about whether Sanders can start week 1. That's not just a shift. That's a complete 180-degree turn that shows just how wrong these people were. And the kids in Cleveland? They're not buying the media narratives either. There's footage of Sanders at a Browns youth camp, and these kids are getting straight to the point. One kid walks right up to him and asks, "Are you starting, or is Joe Flacco starting?" Sanders laughs and says, "I don't know. Nobody knows." But you can see it in his eyes. He knows what's coming. The whole city wants him to start. The kids want him to start. And if we're being honest, he deserves to start. But let's dive deeper into why the Sanders critics are so desperate to move the goalpost. It's not just about football. It's about being wrong on such a massive scale that their credibility is on the line. Johnny Manziel, of all people, just came out and praised how Sanders handled the draft process. Think about that for a second. Manziel, a guy who admits he wasn't prepared, who struggled with the pressure, who couldn't handle the spotlight, is giving Sanders props for how he's handled everything. Manziel said, "I think a lot of guys in that position, to be honest, handled it as good as you possibly can with a smile on your face, just letting everything kind of play itself out." Coming from someone who knows exactly what it's like to be the controversial quarterback pick in Cleveland, that's significant. Manziel saw Sanders and his father sitting there expecting to go in the first 5 picks, only to watch 5 rounds go by. That's a gut punch that would break most people. But Sanders kept his composure, kept working, and now he's in a position to potentially win the starting job. The pattern here is undeniable. Every time someone puts their name and reputation behind their opinion about Sanders, it's positive. Garrett loves his attitude. Ward calls him that dude. And Njoku is gravitating toward him, joking around with him, even inviting him to his softball game. Former Browns player Jason Pitson watched him throw and said, wow, when he saw Sanders fitting balls into tight windows. But the anonymous sources? They're painting a completely different picture. They're the ones calling him arrogant, entitled, unable to read defenses. They're the ones spreading rumors about headphones and attitude problems. Stories that, conveniently, no one can verify because no one will put their name behind them, but here's what's really happening. And this is where it gets psychological. Sanders makes people feel small, and they hate him for it. Not because he's disrespectful. Everyone who's actually met him says he's got a great attitude. They hate him because he's confident, because he comes from success, because he doesn't shrink in the face of criticism. But there's a certain type of person who expects young players, especially young black quarterbacks, to be humble, quiet, and grateful just for the opportunity. When Sanders shows up with confidence, when he carries himself like he belongs, when he doesn't apologize for his success or his father's success, it threatens their worldview. And now, with players like Garrett speaking out, their narrative is crumbling in real time. But wait, there's something even more explosive coming that's going to completely destroy the Sanders haters' last line of defense. Let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes at Browns headquarters. NFL coach Tommy Rees has been working with Sanders, and his assessment completely contradicts what the media critics are saying. While people like Mary Kay Cabot are claiming Sanders needs to improve his pre-play recognition and protection calls, Rees is praising Sanders for exactly those things. His preparation, his work in the playbook, his off-field dedication. So who are you going to believe? The NFL coach who's actually working with the kid every day, or the media member who's watching from the sidelines? This is the part that should make every Browns fan furious. We've seen this movie before. We've watched this organization get quarterback after quarterback wrong. And now, when they might actually have something special, the same media voices that cheered on the Johnny Manziel pick are trying to tear down Sanders before he even gets a real chance. The Browns rookie class isn't just any ordinary group either. This is a historically talented collection of players. You've got Harold Fannin Jr., who led all of college football in receiving yards last season. Not just tight ends, all receivers. Dylan Sampson, who was literally the entire Tennessee offense. Quinton Judkins, who broke SEC records as a freshman and then went on to win a national championship at Ohio State. And then there's Sanders, the Golden Arm winner, the guy who revived 2 different programs, who threw for over 4,000 yards multiple times, who set countless school records. This isn't just some random 5th-round pick we're talking about. This is a player with legitimate legendary college credentials. And the kids in Cleveland? They're already treating Sanders like the superstar the NFL scouts somehow missed. At that Browns youth camp, you could see something special happening. Kids were gravitating towards Sanders, asking for his autograph, wanting to know when his first game was going to be. One kid even asked him to do his touchdown celebration, and Sanders obliged with a smile. This is the guy the critics are trying to paint as arrogant and entitled. The same guy who's taking time to make sure every kid at that camp feels special, who's encouraging them, who's building relationships in the community before he's even taken a single NFL snap. The disconnect between the Sanders we see on camera and the Sanders described by anonymous sources is so massive that it's almost comical. It's like they're talking about 2 completely different people. But here's the real kicker. Even the critics are starting to crack. When pressed about whether Sanders is getting better, whether he looks like more than a 5th-round pick, even the skeptics have to admit he's exceeding expectations. They're just not ready to give him full credit yet, because that would mean admitting they were wrong all along. The truth is, Sanders is in the perfect position to shock the world. He's got weapons around him with players like Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, and a running game that features multiple 1,000-yard backs. The offensive line has been upgraded. The coaching staff believes in him enough to invest serious time in his development. But there's one more piece of evidence that's going to make Sanders doubters question everything they thought they knew. Max Crosby, one of the most feared pass rushers in the NFL, has been building a relationship with Sanders throughout the offseason. They've done multiple podcasts together. They're joking around. They're building that camaraderie that shows Sanders can connect with players at the highest level. This isn't surprising when you really think about it. Sanders was already friends with NFL players before he got drafted. He was already moving in those circles, already earning respect from guys who've made it to the top. The idea that he's somehow not ready for this level is laughable when you see the relationships he's already built. The anonymous quotes about Sanders being combative or difficult to work with. They're looking more and more like complete fabrications designed to justify why he fell to the 5th round. Because every single named source, every single player who's actually interacted with him, tells a completely different story. And that's the real scandal here. We're watching a potential franchise quarterback get torn down by people who are too cowardly to put their names behind their criticisms, while the players who actually matter, the ones who will be his teammates, the ones who will block for him, catch passes from him, and play defense against him in practice, are all singing his praises. The shift in narrative from "can he make the team" to "can he start week 1" tells you everything you need to know about how wrong the initial assessment was. And when Sanders does take that first snap as the Browns starting quarterback, and at this point, it's looking more like when, not if, every single anonymous source, every media member who tried to tear him down, every expert who said he wasn't ready, is going to have to answer for their complete and total failure to evaluate talent. Myles Garrett sees it. Denzel Ward sees it. The kids in Cleveland see it. The question isn't whether Sanders can play at this level. The question is whether the people who doubted him will ever admit they were wrong. And here's the most explosive part. What happens? When Sanders proves all the doubters wrong isn't just going to be sweet revenge. When Sanders steps onto that field and shows what he can really do, it's going to expose the entire system that tried to tear him down. It's going to raise questions about why anonymous sources are given so much credibility, why young black quarterbacks face such intense scrutiny, and why the media seems so invested in certain players failing. The Browns might finally have their franchise quarterback, and it's the guy they got in the 5th round while everyone else was sleeping. The same guy who's been building relationships, winning over teammates, and preparing for this moment while critics questioned everything about him. Here's the bottom line. Myles Garrett doesn't praise players lightly. When a defensive player of his caliber says a quarterback has impressed him, that means something. When he talks about Sanders having a great attitude and being the kind of guy you want to work with, that's not just empty words. That's a professional assessment from someone who knows what it takes to win at the highest level. The Sanders doubters are running out of time and running out of excuses. The pads are about to come on, training camp is approaching, and all their predictions about him not being ready are about to be put to the test. And based on everything we've seen so far, based on every single named source who's worked with him, based on the respect he's already earned from his teammates. The smart money isn't on the anonymous critics. The smart money is on the kid who's been proving doubters wrong his entire career, who's about to do it again on the biggest stage of all. What do you think? Are the Sanders critics about to be exposed? Or will they find new ways to move the goalposts when he starts dominating? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of all the latest Browns drama and see who's really telling the truth about Sanders, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what happens next.